Bite by Night is an asymmetrical horror game based on everything Five Nights at Freddy's, whether it be the hit lore, character designs, and map choices. Everything about Bite by Night feels like a love letter to the FNaF fans, or at least to most. Since Bite by Night is a fan game made by a huge team of people taking on the Goliath that is FNaF, there's bound to be some issues with it along the way, especially with managing an online service game. So that's what I'm here for today, to point out the positives and the negatives on Bite by Night and give as much feedback to try and help you, the player, and the developers understand each other just a little bit better. Remember, this video is not made to attack the devs in any way. It is not encouraging this behavior and is not welcomed on my channel. It is meant to create talk around the game and try to make it the best to what it can be. And what's better to show that community than with the survivors. Currently, the survivor roles in Bite by Night are split up into 5 different roles, being customer, medic, security guard, fighter, and technician, each of which have their own explicit purpose within this game that help flesh out different interactions you can have with the animatronics. So let's dive first into the starter class of Bite by Night, being the customer. The customer is essentially your lone wolf character with 2 abilities that let you fend off the animatronics in quite frankly selfish ways when the rest of your team looks at you. The first ability is literally just pizza, where you eat a slice of pizza and heal 20% of your lost health. The other ability is called drink, where you gain increased speed for a short amount of time, and when this effect ends, you are given a slowness debuff to make up for the insane amount of distance you just made on the animatronics. With both of these perks explained, I want to point out the positives of this, which is it's fantastic for solo survivors that are just starting out in the game, as you don't have to rely on skill or other roles to keep you alive, as you could heal yourself and give yourself a speed boost to help you get away from the animatronics while you still learn the counterplay to each animatronic. However, this role doesn't come without its issues, which is its place within the game itself. Once you play the game, a decent amount of you will probably just switch off of this, since most people are playing with friends and this role doesn't offer your team any help at all. You can't give health from the pizza or the speed boost from your drink to your fellow survivors, making the community pretty annoyed when seeing this role, as if this person isn't taking the animatronics chase or doing objectives, they're essentially useless as they can't take a hit, heal someone else, or stall the animatronics. Each of these things being at least one thing the other 4 survivor roles can do to help their teammates when they're being chased by the animatronics. Though there's a major issue with this role, which is actually some changes that were made a few weeks ago that by eating a pizza gives you the slowness effect, something not told to you in the description of the ability, but is told to you in the description of the drink ability. This is an issue that continues throughout the game that I will point out to help aid developers that may end up watching this video, as I feel when you release an update changing something and how it works, the description of said thing should change, and adding the basic slowness debuff when it ends text can be slapped onto the pizza description, just with a little difference in wording. Overall, it's a good starter role but doesn't offer much team play, which essentially makes the customer feel useless to other, more experienced players. And how I'd fix this is by letting the customer choose to give their pizza or soda to other survivors, but not other customers. We can now move on to the next class, being the medic. Costs you 800 scrap to unlock, and you are the healer of the group. Your first ability being called heal, where you heal other players for 5 health points every 2 seconds, which helps support your other classes such as fighter and security guard after they escape chase after fighting the animatronics. The other ability is called self heal, where you heal yourself for 5 health points every second, giving you a way to keep yourself alive if you happen to get chased with the animatronics and get hurt. And honestly, there isn't much to complain about with this class. It's a support role to keep other survivors alive while making sure you're alive to help out. There's just missing information about this role that I feel would be very beneficial for the player base to be able to easily access, especially if they're just learning the game. There aren't any major issues with this role at face value, as it offers a way to keep yourself alive while allowing you to keep your team alive. A perfect balance for the medic, and if you're new to Bite by Night, a valid concern would be that can't just everyone be medic and keep everyone at max health at full times? Well, the devs thought of this and made a really cool change. See, unlike games like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, locking roles depending on if that role is taken, the Bite by Night devs instead opted to make it to where the medics cannot heal other medics. I mean, you can't just heal right back to full off of a self heal and another medic's heal in like 20 seconds. So with the medic being borderline perfect at face value, we now get into our first of 2 fighter class roles, with the security guard for 1100 scrap, equipped with a taser that charges, and depending on that charge can apply the dazed, confusion, or silent status effects. The security guard is also equipped with cams where you can look through cameras and click on the animatronics or generators to reveal their location to your teammates. And honestly, bravo! This class is honestly a lot of fun to play, but even with it being near perfect, there's only one player-friendly issue with it. This issue is something with the game itself, which as a non-Roblox player myself, I'd love a way to know that where my mouse is where the stun gun and later on some animatronics abilities abilities will go, as I just thought I had to look in that direction at first. The security guard offers the perfect blend of being able to fend off the animatronics, whether it be for you or your teammates, and allowing a recon role in the game so that more experienced players can also help guide new players either away from the animatronics or towards a generator, while the new players still learn the maps. This then creates a map knowledge guidance in this role, but can also help returning players once the game reaches a year or so. So great job on making the security guard not only viable to help teammates and the security guard themselves, but also help out new and returning players down the road learn the maps and generator spawn locations. We then get our second fighter class, which is literally called the Fighter, which you can get for 1,350 scrap. You are equipped with an axe that holds up to 3 charges for when you hit the animatronics. It applies stun, depending on the charge, and give the animatronics an added effect of slowness, blindness, and deafness, or confusion, depending on the amount of charges you have. So how do you obtain these charges? Well, you obtain the charges from parrying the attacks from the animatronics that, when pulled off, stuns the animatronics for 2 seconds and gives you a charge for you to hit the animatronics with. And there's only one game issue with this role, which again is in the description, where it admits to tell you that if you parry but you don't succeed, you gain a weakness effect, allowing the animatronics to deal more damage to you for a few seconds before the effects wear off. Now, a lot of players hate this parry and the fact that it relies on animatronics making a mistake for you to get value out of, and when put like that, yeah, it really does suck. However, it's no different than, let's say, Dead Hard and Dead by Daylight, where you have to hope the killer swings at you while you're injured and you activate Dead Hard to tank an extra hit. Very similar concepts that both rely on the killers making a mistake for you to get value out of. And with the parry and Bite by Night, experienced animatronics learn that 9 times out of 10 to wait before you hit a fighter for them to parry. This is exactly what killers in Dead by Daylight still do with Dead Hard to this day. However, survivors in Dead by Daylight learned how to wait for the killers to swing to activate Dead Hard, kind of creating a watch the other for what they do moment. Though there's a key factor missing from Bite by Night that fundamentally doesn't allow this interaction to work. When an animatronic goes for a hit, the hit happens immediately. I mean, you don't even get time to register their shoulder movement when they swing, whereas in Dead by Daylight, you can see the killers move their shoulders and thus you activate Dead Hard. Though this issue keeps going deeper with the hitboxes in the game being very weird and how they act as well. And I could go on all day about how the parry and Dead Hard are so similar to one another, but how fundamentally parry doesn't work due to the survivor basically not being able to read the animatronics at all, to where mind games can be put at play in Bite by Night. Now, positively, the Fighter offers a lot that the security guard offers, just minus the recon aspect of it. So this lends to people seeing Fighter as a lesser of these two quote-unquote fighter classes. However, I wouldn't change anything with the fighter class itself, as if you learn how to use it, it is more than capable of saving someone and doing more than what the security guard can. And if you're annoying with your parries by saving your teammates from being hit, it requires good game knowledge to use, and for that, I consider Fighter to be the seasoned veteran of the survivors if they're good. The final currently available role in Bite by Night is the Technician for 1,600 scrap, and this is our first ever trapper and distraction like role in Bite by Night. Your first ability is Mask On, where you put on the Vanny Network mask from FNaF Security Breach Ruin. When you put on the mask, you're able to phase through walls and other items on the map to help you gain distance from the animatronics. This only lasts for a small amount of time, and when the timer runs out, you take off the mask and return back to normal. The other ability is Static Mirage, where you place on a static field that slows and dazes the animatronics that can also be destroyed by the animatronics. And with this being the newest role in the game at the moment, I have a lot to say about this role. In terms of starting issues, well, there really isn't much other than the phase being really annoying to use. You'll run into a wall at full force and spam to phase, but it only works a solid 2 to 3 seconds later, which gives the animatronics more than enough time to catch up and get a free hit. Now, I want to take a look at all of these roles together before we move on, because there's such a glaring fundamental issue with these roles that the devs need to sort out yesterday. Every single role emits information from you that is crucial to understanding the role. The first of which is cooldown times for each ability, as each role and their abilities have different cooldown times. Then the role specific information, there is a lot that I will explain for the devs to hopefully go in and fix. Revisiting the customer first, there's recently an update that made it to where when you eat your pizza slice to recover health, you're given the slowness debuff, something not told to the player that should have been added in the update that added this slowness debuff. The medic fails to tell you that when you self-heal, you cannot cancel it in any way. I mean, if the animatronic sees you healing, all you can do is watch as a 400-pound piece of angry metal charges at you and hope you finish the healing animation before that 400-pound piece of angry metal hits you out of the animation. And this same issue arises with the Technician and placing down those Static Mirage traps. The Fighter fails to tell you that if you miss a parry, you're given a weakness effect, allowing the animatronics to do extra damage to you for a few seconds. The Technician doesn't tell tell you that static mirage will destroy itself once a cooldown ends to place a new one, and the radius it can affect the animatronics in. And lastly, the worst offense of this is the security guard class with the cameras. There's a whole second mechanic to the camera section that they just don't tell you about. When you use the cameras, you have a bar of power that goes down that'll kick you out of the cameras after a certain amount of time. However, if you decide to ping the animatronics or a generator, this battery depletes by a significant amount. This issue of omitting information for new players on how these roles work is a major issue for the game health going forward, as we should be able to read what the class and its abilities do, and as a result get an understanding of that class before we start to get a grasp for the gameplay of that class in the actual game. This is something every asymmetrical game does, such as Dead by Daylight with their perks, Friday the 13th with the different Jason variants, Texas Chainsaw Massacre with the different survivors and killers, and so on and so forth. So I hope the devs can look at the feedback I gave them for the survivors and implement them, even if it's just some information for the weirdos like me. Now we finally get to the animatronics, and first is the Rotten. The Rotten comes equipped with a fire axe as his main weapon that deals 34 damage to survivors. The Rotten can also throw this fire axe and deals bleeding damage for 15 seconds if landed on a survivor. And if you catch up to the survivor and hit them with your bare hands, you deal 28 damage instead of 34. The Rotten also comes equipped with 3 traps you can place around the map, and if a survivor steps into it, they are stunned for 8 seconds. Then we have Scream, where you reveal all survivor locations and regenerate 25 stamina, and when this is done, the Scream ability changes into the Charge ability, where you rush forward and grab any survivor in front of you that then deals 40% of their current health. And at the current moment, the Rotten feels in a good spot, where there's a nice skill ceiling and requirement of map knowledge to do well with him, where hitting axe rolls requires aim and having survivors actually step into your bear traps requiring map knowledge of common loop spots and blind spots when survivors walk through doors and other things of the liking. For now, I wouldn't change anything about the Rotten. He is single-handedly one of the most satisfying animatronics to play once you get really good with his axe throws and trap placements. We then get into the Project. The Project's first ability is its M1, dealing 40 damage in strength mode, 6 damage in speed mode, and 25 damage in stealth mode, which bridges into the fact that the Project has 3 different modes, being strength, speed, and stealth mode, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. The first mode we will cover is strength mode. Strength mode is just the Project. Base stats, it deals 40 damage with his M1 and has no additional abilities. If you choose to switch to speed, you gain a 25% speed boost and minus 50% stamina regen, 20% stamina, and 20% DSD, which for the new people here, DSD is when you chase a survivor for a long time, you gain reduced stamina drain to help you catch up to the survivor. While in this mode, you have a new ability called Leap, where you leap forward and dunk on the survivors, dealing 25 AoE damage. The final mode, Stealth mode, gives you 2 new abilities. The first being Grab, where you just flat out kidnap a survivor and can run off with them. If you do grab a survivor, you are then able to use a new ability called Drill Stab, where you can then stab the survivor in the chest, dealing 25 damage. The final ability in stealth mode is Drill, where you drill into the floor and become invisible and reveal players to you. And when you drill back up, anyone caught in your radius gets dealt 32 damage. The Project, in my opinion, is the strongest to use in the right hands, but is incredibly difficult to learn and understand. And to explain this, I have to first point out that the animatronics have the same issues with information as the survivors, as there is some crucial information that is omitted from the player here. The biggest piece of omitted information is that Grab, Leap, and Drill all ragdoll the survivor and effectively stunning them for a few seconds as they get up, allowing the Project to throw you or hope you fall into a dead end for them to switch to strength mode to hit you, which in some cases is enough to almost kill a medic in one combo. So if done right with a lot of skill and luck, the Project can almost borderline one combo a survivor. But due to the situational aspect of the ragdolling, with the only one you can control being the Grab and Drill Stab, since you can control where you throw the survivor, it makes the Project one of the weakest animatronics in the game, yet one of the strongest at the same time if you can really learn how to use him. However, there are some positives that I do like about the Project. He requires game knowledge and mastery of all 3 modes to do really good with him, which really is what every animatronic should strive for. Mastery of all the abilities to really get the most out of them. Really, the only thing I feel I would change about the Project is his leap is very hard to aim, and my solution would be to add an aiming effect where it shows where you'll leap in an arc or just as a circle on the floor. That moves depending where your camera is. I feel this could be applied to the Drill as well, but that's easier to calculate, so I'll let you all decide on that one. And for our last currently available animatronic is Ennard, aka the Doppelganger. The Doppelganger, of course, has a normal M1 that deals 32 damage but comes equipped with 3 abilities. The first is Wire Eyes, where you rip out 2 minions that roam around, and when they latch onto players, they reveal the survivor's location. The next ability is grab, where you shoot out a tendril that grabs a player if aimed right and pulls them into you, giving the survivor the defense 2 effect for 1 second. We then get into the second mode for the doppelganger, being Skin Stealer, where you can eject a dead player and take their appearance. In this mode, you gain 3 abilities that replace the wire eyes, grab, and Skin Stealer abilities. The first of these abilities is Explode, where you literally just explode out of the skin and deal 25 damage to anyone caught in the AoE of it. The next is Throw, where you just throw a minion as far as you can, and if you hit a survivor, it explodes. Otherwise, the minion just acts like a normal minion. Lastly is Stab, where you lunge forward and get locked into an animation, stabbing the survivor you hit, dealing 45 damage and lowering the time limit in the Skin Stealer upon usage of this ability. Now, at face value, the doppelganger is pretty basic. It feels like Springtrap with essentially traps you could place and a ranged attack. However, these traps are single-handedly the worst thing for the game's health going forward, and it's because they are able to roam freely, essentially being if there were bear traps on the map that move to the nearest player that are very hard to see. If you're unfortunate enough as a survivor to be in chase with the doppelganger or near the doppelganger, you have to shake off the wire eye that latched onto you, or you'll just die from bleed damage. But you are also slowed when it first latches onto you, and when you take it off, as when you do, you are locked in a taking off the wire eye animation, essentially guaranteeing a free hit from the doppelganger. I mean, if you don't have a security guard or fighter or technician to delay, stop, or slow the animatronics, you basically have to choose between inevitable bleed death or a free hit on top of the damage you just took. The rest of these abilities are fine. The grab is weird to aim and land, but is possible to get good at, so honestly, at face value, I would just change the minions to be a little more bearable, especially with accessibility, as you have to essentially yeet your mouse around the desk to get these things off, something not everyone in the world can do. And yes, again, there's more omitted information from each animatronic that I will just quickly list off. The Ron's Remnant Cleaver deals bleed damage. How much does each tick of damage do for those 15 seconds? Well, I don't know either. The Bear Trap deals damage when it first snaps shut, but doesn't tell you how much. Charge doesn't tell you that you ragdoll a survivor, just that you grab them, which with the project, that can also grab survivors, but fundamentally, the Ron and the project's grabs are different. This can cause confusion. The project's leap takes stamina away from you, something not told in the description. Drill Stab and Drill don't tell you that they ragdoll the player hit by them, and Drill Stealth doesn't tell you that there's a timer for how long you're underground and for how long. And shockingly enough, the whole description for the speed mode is wrong. You do get 25% speed boost. You do get plus 25% speed. However, it still lowers your amount of stamina. However, the 50% less stamina regen just isn't a thing anymore and hasn't been since April 6th, fundamentally changing how the character works, as how fast it depletes and the stamina regen being slower has been removed. For the doppelganger, it doesn't tell you that the wire eyes do damage to survivors upon impact and then deal bleed damage afterwards if they don't shake them off, let alone that the shaking off aspect of the wire eyes is a thing. And for the Skin Stealer abilities of Explode and Throw, those both also deplete the time limit in the Skin Stealer ability, something that's told to us in the Stab ability description. So in general, how do I feel about the animatronics? It's a lot of fun, and the way you get animatronics is also quite fun. You play as a survivor and are rewarded for completing objectives to allow you to become animatronics faster, and the gameplay is quite fun once you find the animatronic you enjoy. However, the hitboxes in this game and the distance in which you hit survivors actually hit in chase is horrible. Sometimes I feel like I'm right behind someone and I don't hit them, and other times I feel like I'm across the map and somehow hit someone on the other side of the map from me. I feel in general for both sides, survivor and killer, we need information. Tell us the distance things hit or are thrown, for as you do in the patch notes by using the stud measurement in Roblox. Let us know how much damage things do, the other mechanics within them, and if it's too much text, let us click on the ability that lets us extend it to read more about it, so that new players who want to really learn a new character, survival role, or animatronics can know what to expect when, let's say, they let out the wire eyes on the doppelganger and they latch onto a survivor. I also want to point out the accessibility as to how you shake off Ennard's wire eyes. Shaking the screen by throwing your mouse around or flicking your controller joystick, etc., isn't that accessible for people with mobility issues in their hands, wrists, arms, shoulders, etc. So I think having a feature where you can hold down a button or just changing how it works would help a lot for those with mobility issues. I know I kind of covered that originally, but I really want to make sure that the devs understand that some people just cannot face the doppelganger if they have mobility issues. I feel right now too much is going into updating the game and making it great, which is perfect. However, the actual information of the game is way too outdated to make an argument that it will come in a week, as some of the things I pointed out were either changed a month ago or have been in game since launch. I also don't see the point of telling us how much health each animatronic has. I've noted that each animatronic has a different amount of health, and if any dev is watching this, can we expect to see something similar to Friday 13th where you can kill Jason with enough teamwork and coordination? Otherwise, why have the stat here? And why have it be different for each animatronic? animatronic. We can finally get into the more cosmetic part of Bite by Night with the maps. There are 3 maps in Bite by Night, the first being the Pizzeria, which takes inspiration from the FNaF 1 location but also possibly the FNaF movie, with an office that is just the FNaF 1 office, a dining area, kitchen, backstages, arcades, and a play place. And honestly, I love this map a lot, though there are some things that I think should be changed. It is so crowded that it's hard to make any good plays on both survivor and killer, and with the fact that at-base killers are slower than survivors, this is a major issue unless you are absolutely cracked with your ranged abilities and traps on each animatronic. And this also applies on killer from the survivor side, where you can run somewhere and block them off, but the killer can in some cases just walk around, like by the main stage for example. The arcade feels too bland. The neon lights are cool, but they don't really affect the environment around them, so I'd like to see that more, and the play place just feels really out of place. It's essentially just a camp hub for survivors that either refuse to do any objectives, or once the objectives are done, just go there because they have a vantage point that literally allows them to see when the animatronic walks in the room from so far away that they can anticipate when to start running and get away immediately, making the animatronics feel like they either have to go up to the normal camping spot for everyone to jump down, or hope someone is dumb enough to fall for a mind game and jump down early. Otherwise, W map. There's a few dead ends, but I feel dead ends are healthy for the game as long as every corner isn't one of them. Then there's the forest, which is majorly open. It favors the project majorly, and honestly, it is a great map, except that since it's such a big map, all you could do is Ennard and Springtrap is either hope they fall into a trap or you hit a ranged attack, making Ennard and Springtrap feeling mostly up to 50-50s on if where you throw an attack is where the survivor is going to dodge to. They also recently connected 2 dead ends, which is cool, but since there's no dead ends on this map, it can make it annoying to actually chase down survivors, especially with not 1, not 2, not 3, not even 4, but 5 doors in this small section of the map that survivors can barricade and easily stun you with. Besides there not being many loops, and the loops that are broken for survivors, especially the water tower that's almost impossible to work around with this dumb pole in the way for the animatronic. It's an okay map, not my favorite, but it's alright. Honestly, just remove that stupid pole on water tower. Give a few less doors on this side of the map, and give some more workaround spots and more open areas that don't normally have generators to allow animatronics to catch up on survivors navigating the obstacles. Lastly is the factory. The factory is, in my opinion, the best map for survivors and the worst map for the animatronic. Aesthetically wise, it's cool and I enjoy it. It takes place in a warehouse meant to make other projects. However, due to tight corridors and doors all over the place on this side of the map, it makes this side of the map annoying without traps, an issue for the project. And even if you have traps, the other side of the map has 2 different infinite loops that connect together with one another, making Springtrap want to and almost borderline have to waste 1, if not 2 of his 3 traps to shut these infinites down, or to balance on this railing so you can essentially jump on either side of this infinite to shut it down as well. Oh, I also forgot to mention that there's also 2 infinites on the other side of the map too. In a game where the animatronics is fundamentally slower than the survivor, infinites are very unhealthy for the game. You want to encourage hitting your axe, grab, leap, and other things, sure, but it is so hard to actually do this consistently that you'll sometimes just be in a constant loop of throwing your range abilities for them to not hit anything, and you continue in a constant loop, and God forbid you're against a customer with their increased speed boost. Honestly, if I can make one change, remove the infinites and allow more interesting gameplay with the doors, but also other ways to stop the animatronics, like in the security office with the security doors, but apply that to these other maps in unique ways, like maybe a crawl space in the factory, or the tents in the forest, because having to rely on the mistake of a survivor as an animatronic, and that being the only thing you could do on an infinite, isn't healthy, as even in other asyms, both killers and survivors can do things in infinites that don't purely rely on the survivor or killer's mistake. I also want to point out that each map is meant for one of the animatronics, the forest for Springtrap, the warehouse for the project, and I think the pizzeria for the doppelganger. However, these maps essentially suck for the animatronics that they are connected to. The best animatronic for the forest is the project, the best animatronic for the warehouse is the doppelganger or the Rhine, and the best animatronic for the pizzeria is the Rhine with a close follow-up from the doppelganger, which for a map that's meant for a specific animatronic lore-wise, you'd think these maps would allow for that specific animatronic's abilities to shine. We finally get to the skins, and for the animatronics, there's a lot, and I frankly love all of them. Even if they're so ugly, it makes you question if God intended for this to be on his green earth. With the Rhine, we have his base skin, which is just Springtrap with some streamers and chains on him. A nice callback to him being found inside of a Freddy Fazbears pizzeria. Then there's Toon Rhine, which is actually from the Pymations animation 5 AM at Freddy's 3, and I love this skin in concept. He has the crowbar, or it's to when in the animation Springtrap gets hit in the knees with a crowbar, and they also got the voice actor for Springtrap Springtrap in the Pymation's animation to voice his lines, which I love as an OG FNaF fan. Even though the 3D choice is, voice, I love it. If I were to change anything, maybe make him cell shaded or more cartoony looking like in his icon. You could even take inspiration from Borderlands and how they do cartoon looking 3D models, and this skin would look infinitely better. Next is Spartan, which is Springtrap but Kratos from God of War, equipped with Kratos' iconic Leviathan axe and a new sick animation for when he screams that references the pose Kratos hits when he activates his Spartan rage. This skin is honestly really cool for God of War fans. Not much to say here, honestly. We then have his newest skin, Pit Rabbit, which comes from the Into the Pit novel and game from FNaF, and I love the references in the skin. First, you have the do not use sign with a bunch of colorful ropes and balls from the ball pit wrapped around him, which for those who aren't major into FNaF, the ball pit is essentially where Pit Rabbit resides, and at the end of the story, he gets caught up in the ball pit netting and dies, afterwards leaking a black liquid that's referred to as agony in FNaF that you can find more about here. However, Pit Rabbit also has what seems to be this black liquid on him. So as a FNaF lore nerd, I adore this skin so much and wouldn't change a thing about it design-wise. And his last currently available skin, which is Hoax, which for any OG FNaF fan is a straight love letter. In 2014, a user named Roxo1987 made this image showing an animatronic that looked like the animatronics of the franchise, Purple Guy, aka William Afton, using the withered golden Freddy character, just hue shifted to purple with a different head shape, and at the time, this was something the community believed. And seeing this skin is so cool to see, as it's just perfect for the OG fans of the FNaF franchise, and I wouldn't change a thing about this skin either. I even love how his mouth opens wide to grab his axe. It's so creepy. Next is the project, and the first skin is literally just how he looks in Secret the Mimic, so not much to say here. Great job recreating this character. The next skin is Aftermath, which I've actually seen a lot of people surprisingly think is stupid and makes no sense, and that I have to say, how does it feel to be a LARPer? The Aftermath skin hints at what it is, the aftermath of the events of where the project comes from in Secret of the Mimic, where in the end of the game, the Mimic kills Arnold and walks off with the data diver, and this skin is to show an alternate universe where the Mimic that takes the costumes of characters and acts like them in Secret of the Mimic took Arnold's clothing and is now acting like him, and honestly, I love that so much. I love how the clothes don't fit on properly and are ripped in certain parts to show that car crash and just how tall the Mimic really is. 10 out of 10 design. Then there's the Ruin skin, which is literally just how he looks in FNaF Security Breach Ruin that takes place decades later after Secret of the Mimic. So not much to say here other than, again, good job on the recreation. Finally is the Doppelganger, and his first skin is just Ennard, but buff, which is even memed on in the emotes for the Doppelganger with the flex emote. So, I mean, hey, I can't complain here. It looks like Ennard and makes him more intimidating. No complaints here. The Mime is the next skin for the Doppelganger, and honestly, not my favorite, but I get what they were doing here. Ennard is a clown, and mimes look like clowns, and even in game, the mime doesn't make a lot of sound. So honestly, for what it is, they did great. Just not my flavor. Then there's the Spaghetti skin. Look, I don't care how stupid this is or how ugly, the joke of Ennard just being robot spaghetti and now actually having a skin that just turns him into spaghetti, equipped with meatballs for eyes and a paper plate for a mask and hat. 10 out of 10, no changes here. I personally don't use it, but I love it, and I'd love more meme skins like this. It's so much fun, and I just love it. Just don't lean too much in the meme skins to where the game becomes too stupid, though. Next is the Molten skin, which takes inspiration from Ennard's appearance as Molten Freddy in the 6th installment of FNaF, being Freddy Fazbears' Pizzeria Simulator. And for what it is, this is a great adaptation that I wouldn't change anything about. Yeah, he's not all goopy and stuff like he is in the game, but this is an Ennard skin. He still has to look and move like the Doppelganger while looking like Molten Freddy, and for that, again, great skin. I'd love to see more skins like this for other characters like Scraptrap and Glitchtrap for the Rotten. The final skin is the Anomaly, taken straight from the FNaF VHS tape created by Reach Animations, that gives Ennard a more creepy look with human teeth and eyes with a more muted color look due to the VHS look, and when applied to Bite by Night, they did a great job. It looks just like Bite by Night's version of Reach Animations Ennard, and he even has VHS effects when he does his certain actions in the game. So again, 10 out of 10, y'all are hitting it so hard with these skins. So Survivors was a lot of skins too, since there's 5 roles, right? Ha! Nope. Currently, at the time of writing this, you have 2 skins for the fighter, which changes the axe to a crowbar, or if you get to the Pymation's animation 5 AM at Freddy's, which I love that they added, but it's just a reused asset. The other I need to stress a lot about, recently, they added another skin for the fighter by a collaboration with Metal.tv, something I've never heard of outside of lazy promotions on TikTok and will not be participating in. As to get it, you have to make a Metal account and upload clips to it to claim the free axe, and there's 2 reasons why I think this singular skin is a major issue. The first is that you are being being forced to sign up for something you'll use once and never again. And this site I've only seen be used for just stolen clips, but maybe that's just my experience. The other is this is just asking for a lawsuit. Scott Cawthon already went after Byte by Night when the animatronics were still called Springtrap, Mimic, and Ennard, but agreed to let the game continue if they changed the names. Though now you're actually collaborating with other businesses while still using character designs from FNaF. We know Scott Cawthon doesn't mind fan games, but is against heavy monetization when a fan game that uses his designs but is just slightly altered. I don't think this is a wise move, and it makes me worried for the future of Byte by Night, as again, guess what? It's a second skin for Fighter, with no other skins for the other survivors. It feels like favoritism for certain roles, like how the project has 2 skins outside of his base skin, but the Ron and the Doppelganger have 4 currently, with the project still not receiving anything new for skins in multiple updates. Though there's an underlying issue that I have with Byte by Night as a game. It doesn't feel like a game on Roblox made for fun with the chance of making a little bit of money to help support the devs, artists, and others who put work into it. No, instead feels very corporate now. The game just came out about a month ago at the time of recording this, and we already have so many skins, emotes, and now a collaboration with another company with obvious favorites in the game, with the Ron and the Doppelganger being the only 2 animatronics to get new skins, and Fighter being the only role with not 1 but 2 skins, whereas the others are just left in the dust. On top of this, the daily scrap was completely removed from the game, making it harder to earn scrap, something that feels like it's encouraging to spend Robux to get more scrap. On top of this, you have increased the amount items cost a few updates before this, and also offer a way to get more scrap through the VIP that again costs a lot of scrap or Robux. Now, I don't know what the plans are with the daily rewards, but I wasn't able to find anything about bringing them back, and there's still messages popping up to this day with people asking for daily rewards to come back and why they were removed in the first place. So until I find out if there are plans to bring them back, this really feels like people were not spending Robux, and to solve this, you slowly implemented changes to make it harder to earn scrap so that people who want skins, emotes, roles, animatronics, and so on and so forth would either have to grind the game a lot or spend Robux to get scrap, which is a sure and easy way to get everything, including VIP. This tactic has been used in so many games, most infamously with Activision and EA games, such as Star Wars Battlefront 2, Destiny 2, Genshin Impact, and others that make you want to buy either loot boxes or currencies to be able to progress faster in the game instead of having to grind it out. Which, keep in mind, I started my YouTube career playing Destiny 2 and played Genshin Impact a lot back in 2022. So this might just be me being paranoid, seeing what some of my favorite games fall into heavily monetized messes. Currently, the game felt like it had passion when I first saw it being teased and revealed on TikTok and stuff a few months ago, but now it feels like it's trying to make a quick buck. So what do I recommend for skins? Well, the mech could be changed into a charging station from Security Breach as a starting idea. That's kind of the biggest issue right now with the skins. The Ron and Doppelganger have a lot, whereas the survivors and the project almost have none. And I want to see them get more skins for the customization of the roles. The issue is also reversed with the emotes, where survivors have a surplus of emotes, but the animatronics barely have any. As much as I'd love to talk about every emote in this episode, if we did, this would be more of an emote video than a feedback video. But I will quickly say every emote is a 10 out of 10, even if I don't get every reference right now. So with all this laid out, what are the net positives and negatives? Well, the positives are the game updates a lot. It fixes issues with it fast. It shows a clear passion behind making this game good. And let's be honest, by the time this video comes out, a lot of the issues I probably mentioned in this video have most likely been fixed already, which is amazing. Another positive is giving free codes to get scrap for free when the game goes down for a little bit, but also shows a sense of community, and in the future should be used for other things outside of scrap, like a free emote or skin during Christmas, for example. Just don't make the skins and stuff exclusive to this free code, as it creates a fear of missing out. Each animatronic feels unique while sticking to the formula, which can be good and bad depending on that line, but I enjoy it for now. But as the game goes on, I'd like to see that change. I also adore the fun community skins like the Hoax, Toon, Spaghetti, and Anomaly skins, as it lets people from different parts of the community enjoy the game in their own way, whether they're an OG fan, animation fan, meme fan, or VHS fan, or whatever else they do in the future. I'd love to see more of this in the game. The emotes are fun and goofy, and I appreciate that for us streamers, you let us turn down the volume for the emotes so we don't get copyright struck. The abilities all feel fun, but can be a little janky. It could use some ironing out, but the Ron is by far the most polished of the animatronics. So we get into the bads, and there's a lot. As previously mentioned, there's a lot of omitted information about the roles and animatronics I'd like to see be brought into the game when it's updated. The maps either feel like they favor animatronics way too much or favor the survivors way too much, to the point where I sometimes just pick animatronics based off what map I get, and you bet I'm never using the project on the warehouse or pizzeria. Skins are bountiful for animatronics, but for some reason the project just hasn't gotten really anything skin wise, and the survivors just have a reused asset for a fire skin, so I'd love to see more attention brought there as well. And of course, lastly, the Metal.tv collab and how they've handled scrap, making the game feel very corporate at the end of the day. Especially when scrap has gotten harder and harder to get, that then encourages players to spend Robux to get VIP to earn scrap faster, and possibly just flat out buy scrap to be able to get the absurd amount of emotes and the currently available skins, animatronics, and roles. Otherwise, I don't have much else. The game feels like it just needs to start focusing on everything when they update by giving us updated descriptions, a few map reworks to help animatronics with infinites, and some more skins for the project and survivors to show them some love too. Now, to the Byte by Night community, this video does not encourage any harassment of anyone on the Byte by Night team or anyone else outside of the team, and is not welcomed on my channel. However, constructive criticism and feedback to the devs is welcomed and is the best way to help the devs make the game as good as it can be. Now, I do also want to say that this has been in the works for a couple months now, since late April, so who knows how much of this stuff has been outdated, but I hope it's as accurate as can be. To the devs behind Byte by Night, don't take this video as any hate or anything. I'm just a FNaF nerd who loves this game and wants to see it do well, and have gotten feedback from other creators who have also played this game a lot and what their likes and dislikes are. And I would love to work with you on the game in the future with providing feedback as I continue to try to 100% the game as more animatronics, roles, skins, emotes, and more are added. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. This is my first ever non-official FNaF video I've made, so please give me feedback on how I can make these better. I did exclude the emotes because there's just so many. So if you'd like to see me make an emote review video, let me know. Anyways, I hope you all have a great day and stay safe. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like, subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next video or live stream. Bye bye!